Hello guys, my name is Ernie Braveboy and today we want to talk about how does Section 8 works for landlord. Um, let's just talk a little bit about the landlord qualifications. Well, there is no qualifications. If you're a landlord and you're interested in renting your property for Section 8, there's two ways you can do it. You could visit your local Section 8 office in the county and you have to kind of talk about the county where you at. Right now, my houses are located in Baltimore County, so you want to look at where your houses are located and kind of talk to that office if you're going to do that. Or you could just list that house online. It used to be Go Section 8, but now they changed the name to affordable housing. And that's also fine because if you put your houses on Go Section 8, it will still refer you to the affordable housing website. So once you're listed, as I said before, there is no set of qualification. There is no government red tape that you has to go to be a Section 8 landlord to get part of the program, and they encourage landlords. They have briefings and so forth for people that just want to find out how the program works. So what you could do is you can talk to them or send them an email and they will inform you when it's a briefing, and you could go there and attend one of the briefings. That's a way to kind of fast track. They will be available to answer any questions that you would have trying to know how the product is. So I said before, there is no qualification. Okay. So you may ask, Ernie, how does I get my tenant? Well, the tenant chooses the house. Okay. Let me repeat that. The tenant chooses the house. So what you're gonna do, I'm gonna give you two options. The first options, I'm not sure if it's gonna work now with COVID because they normally Section 8 has this wonderful program where they have walk-in for landlords, and where if you wanted to list your house down at Section 8, you could print up your flyers. They have a table there, and you could just go and put all your stuff on those table, and then the people, when they get the voucher, they will pick up one of the flyer. You might have your number on there. I hope you have your number on there because that's the only way they're going to reach you. And they're going to call you and say, oh, I saw that property. I pick up your flyer at Section 8. Can I come and look at the property? All right, and obviously you go tell them, yes, they can look at the property. So that's one option. Let's talk about option two. Option two is you go to affordablehousing.com and you list the house there. I love option two. You don't have to leave your house at all. So what you do, you take some wonderful pictures, mainly of the bathroom, kitchen, flooring, maybe washer and dryer, stuff that you have in the house, and you list all the houses because tenants likes to see what they're gonna get. So please, if you're gonna put a washer and dryer there, which I recommend you do, you may want to take pictures of that. You upload nice pictures of the house. Also upload a picture of the front of the house so they can see what the front is, if it's a townhouse and so forth like that. And once you list those pictures, they normally send you an email and say, okay, we're interested in your house. Then you can talk to them and set them an appointment for them, and then they will come out and take a look at the house. So these are the two options you could use when you're deciding if you're going to rent to Section 8. I recommend you rent for Section 8, and I will talk about the reasons to rent for Section 8. One, I have found out that the rent is always pays higher than the market rent. Number one. Number two, you don't have to run behind people to get the money. So every month, Section 8 deposit that money in your bank account on the first of the month. You never have to worry. So you don't have to worry if you have 5 properties that are running behind 5 tenants that doesn't pay, or 1 tenant that pay and the other tenants don't pay. You have all that money coming in at the same time. Let me just add this, that sometimes the tenant has a portion to pay. I have been doing this for the last 20 years, and I have learned that most time it's in between $25 to $300. So if you have a house that is paying, let me say the tenant is paying, the house is bringing in $1,500, and the tenant is paying $200. Do you want to go for $1,500 behind somebody, or you prefer to take your $1,200 and then go for another $300 behind somebody? So number two, the tenant has an obligation to make sure that they pay their rent. If they don't pay the rent, that is violation and they could lose the voucher. They never want to do that. So they have an agreement with Section 8 and they have a contract with you. I will talk a little bit about the contract as we go forward. But I just wanted to make that point to show you that the tenant has an obligation. The tenant also has an obligation to take care of your house. I know a lot of people think that Section 8 tenant is going to mash the house up. Before I decided to start Section 8, that is one of the things that I've heard, that Section 8 is going to mess your house up. That is totally not true. And there's a caveat to that. If you choose wisely, you have to do your groundwork and choose your tenant wisely. I'm going to go further on into that in the next video and talk about how you choose your tenant. So if you're enjoying this video, please subscribe. If you want more information, subscribe, because I will be doing a whole series on Section 8 tenant and how you rent for Section 8 tenant and how you have a very, very good business, profitable business, renting for Section 8 with no headache. In my business right now, I only rent a Section 8 tenant because I find it to be stress-free. If there is an issue after a year, my contract is only for a year. After a year, then it goes month to month. I could get rid of that tenant. I could make a complaint if they have a problem with that tenant and deal with that and clean my slate and start over again. So let's just get back on track, because this video is how Section 8 works for landlord, and I want to make sure I give you a lot of valuable information. So when the tenants choose the house, because the tenant is the one that's going to choose that house, they have what they call a RFTA, which you as the landlord has to sign. So you will sign that RFTA, and on that RFTA you're ticking off a couple of things. You're really ticking off utilities. So you're telling them, is the house air conditioned? Is it radiator heat? What type of water heater, gas or electric? So you're ticking that off, and you're also saying who paying for what. So all the time we do gas and electric, the tenant's gonna pay for that. Water, that's up to you. I mean, you could pay the water bill or you could let the tenant pay it. I have done it when I pay it, and I have done it when I let the tenant pay it, and I find it's a lot better when you let the tenant pay the water bill. Now, if you decide to put the water bill that you're going to pay the water bill, Section 8 is going to give you a little bit more money for that. I'm in Baltimore, Maryland. Most time it is about what? Maybe about $100 or $50 to $100. It could vary. But I think you should let the tenant pay the water bill, because if there's a toilet running or a leak, just a side note, I know I had a pipe and I had a tenant, and the tenant was paying the water bill, and I says, hey man, I was paying the water bill. I say, you should have told me you had a pipe that was running, and it was like, oh, we don't pay it. So you may want to have the tenant pay it. That way the tenant has some responsibility. That way people are not gonna just washing cars and using water because they don't need to pay it. You give them some responsibility, so you have the tenant pay the water bill. So on the RFTA form, you're just ticking out what is your responsibility and what is the tenant responsibility. So once that is done, you sign back to Section 8. They're gonna have a caseworker. Normally with COVID right now, they're doing a lot of emails, so you're gonna email all that stuff back to them. And once you email that stuff back to them, they're gonna get back to you, and they're gonna get ready for an inspection. They're gonna actually tell you when is your inspection. Your job as a landlord is to get ready for that inspection. It doesn't have to be for the inspection. You could put a lockbox code if you're at work or you're doing something else, and you could just give the inspector the lockbox code if you don't want to sit there, because most times the inspector is going to give you a window. So you want to make sure that you get access. You give that access if you cannot be there for the inspection. So what would the inspector look for? Let me talk about that. The garbage disposal, you're going to want to make sure that is working. running water. When he close up the pipe, there is no pipe dripping. He gonna be looking for peeling paints. He gonna be flushing the toilets. Make sure the toilet flush properly. He gonna be checking the electrical, like he has those things you could buy at Home Depot or Lowe's, where you just push it in and you're gonna tell you if it's grounded properly. You have 2 lights at the top and then a light at the bottom. So he's gonna be checking all this stuff. But one of the main thing is he's gonna be checking all your carbon monoxide and smoke alarm stuff. So make sure all that stuff is working. So he might be checking your water heater. Make sure the water coming out from the pipe is hot. Check the shower. So he's gonna check all those stuff. So you want to take a look at this, and even if I give you all that information and you do all that stuff, you could miss something. And if you fail that inspection, that's totally okay. What the inspector gonna do, he's gonna give you a list of stuff, and on that list he's gonna come back to inspect. So you're gonna just do everything on that list, and you're gonna check it out. And he's not coming, when he come back on the next go around, he's not looking for anything new. He's just looking for what's on that list. So the second time, you can't fail on the second time, because if you fail on the second time, you're gonna be disqualified from getting that tenant, and you will have to go back and get a new tenant and start all over again. So you want to make sure you have 2 times to pass the inspection. One more thing, if you're able to pass the inspection on the first go around, what section it will do is you wouldn't have to do a yearly inspection for 2 years. So let me talk about that. So once you pass that inspection, Section 8 comes back every year and do an inspection and tell you this need to be done as the tenant is there. What I love that also, because it helps you upkeep your house. So every year they're coming back, and it's not as rigorous as the first time inspection. They just look in, and then they will cite the tenant for certain things. Now, if the tenant is not keeping the house clean, or they see certain things that is definitely a tenant issue, the tenant will have to take care of that. And if there is incident where it's a landlord issue, they're gonna write there's some notes. So when they come back on a yearly basis, I don't want to stray from the topic, but I want to talk about it a little bit. Don't worry about having them pass the first time. Just normally I wait until they fail it, and when they fail it, they give me a list, and that's where it's easier. That you're not kind of running with your head cut off trying to figure out what they're gonna come and see. So once that happens, you're good to go. So let me get back to topic and talking about, because this video is really for people that want to know how it works for the first time. And let me talk about the deposit. Now, the deposit is between you and your tenant. You decide what deposit you're going to choose, and Section 8 has nothing to do with that. So it's not a situation where you could go back to Section 8 and say, oh, the tenant didn't pay the deposit. You need to make sure you collect the deposit before you sign that contract and you hand the keys over. So most times, if a tenant want my house, I would say, listen, to tie this house up, because I have other people looking at it, you're going to have to give me a deposit. Once you give me a deposit, I give them a word that I'm not going to do this house, because a deposit is already given. What you don't want to do is give the tenant the keys, and then they come by you when they sign and tell you, oh, I don't have the deposit. Give me a couple of days to do it. You don't want to do that. Make sure you get your deposit. Okay. So all of this set now, what's going to happen? Let's talk about the contract. The tenant is going to have a contract with Section 8, and you're going to have to bring your own contract also, where you're going to have with the tenant. Okay, so whatever you draft up your contract to be, whatever you want, whatever you're going to charge them for, maybe loss of keys, what you expect, and stuff like that. So you draft up with your general contract. And then you sign the contract. Section 8 is actually going to look over your contract also, make sure it's okay, make sure it's fair to them, make sure it's fair to the tenant. Once you've done all of that now, you get your deposit, you do your contracts. You can do it virtually now. Then they're going to give you what they call a moving date, where they're going to tell the tenant when is the moving date. Once they set that moving date, you're going to give the tenant the key, because your rent will start on that moving date. What you would realize when you just started, if they move if they move in the 15th or they normally move in at the end of the month, you might have a little delay before you get the money, but don't worry, they're going to prorate you and give you all the money. But sometimes to get things in the system, it takes a little bit longer. So sometimes it could be just having 2 months payments coming in because you missed the first one. So they're going to pay. The good thing about this, again, you don't have to run through rent court and all that stuff to get your money. You don't have to run behind a tenant to get your money. If the tenant rent is $1,500, some tenant section is going to pay all, and some tenant section is going to pay a portion. Most time is 90 to 95%. So the tenant portion is very, very small. So that's another issue where Section 8 is way better than somebody going and lose their job and they don't know if they're going to pay it. So you get that guaranteed money. You always want that guaranteed money. As we say, show me the money. So every month you does not have to worry about anything because Section 8 will continue paying that money. I love Section 8. This is the only thing I've done for my business, and it has worked out for me in my business tremendously. If you want to know about Section 8, you could look at my book. It's called How to Make Huge Cash with Section 8 Rental, the Landlord Handbook. And you could get this book in single, or you could get it in a bundle as I have it here. If you buy it in the bundle where you get 2 books together, you're getting How to Be a Great Landlord and How to Make Huge Cash with Section 8 Rental. Both of these books are available and on Amazon, and I will definitely be putting a link here where you could go to Amazon, or you could also get it in Audible, and you could get the Kindle version. I think the Kindle version is like $2.99. The paperback version might be about $12. Don't quote me on that. And I think maybe about $5-6 on Audible for this book. Okay, so guys, as I said before, again, I will leave all the links in this description. This is a wonderful book which outline how the Section 8 rental program works. So if you want more videos about this, please subscribe. I will be going deeper on this video within the next couple of weeks. I'll be talking about Section 8 rental extensively in these videos for the next couple of weeks. So subscribe to me every week. I will try to put out one video about Section 8 rental going forward, maybe next 2 months, to kind of explain in this series of how does Section 8 works. And we will be hitting a lot of issues. We will be giving you a lot of content in how Section 8 program work and how you could profit huge cash, as I say, how to make huge cash from Section 8 rental. If you find this video valuable, don't leave without subscribing and recommending this video to a friend. Anyway, see you guys on the next video, where I hope we could make a lot of cash together. So let's make cash. See you on the next video.